hear me and see the screen? All right, this is Dr. Ashley. We are doing OET Day 1 grammar for writing. Okay, so there are certain things that we're going to do today, right? The first thing is we're going to learn some tenses, which are going to be important for you on your exam day, right? We're going to start with the past, present, right? Past perfect, sorry, present perfect. And then we're going to move to simple past and present perfect tense, right? These tenses are really important for your OET exam, because if you don't understand them, that you would not be able to write in your exam correct English, right? Like, see, when you are taking your OET exam, you have to think of two things. Number one, that you're a doctor, you're working as a doctor. The second thing is you're thinking like a doctor, but you're writing like an English author, right? So the first thing is present perfect tense. Then we're going to move to simple past tense and your present perfect, right? So starting with your present perfect tense, anybody has any idea what it means by when we say present perfect? What does it mean actually when we say present perfect? Any idea? Because this is an interactive one. I don't know why your rest of your colleagues aren't around, but I really want us to end this and begin it. So what do you know about present perfect? What does it mean, present perfect? Any idea? Yes, Dr. Sarah, go ahead. No need to raise hand. You could just go ahead. Keep talking, yeah.
Present perfect is as written in the screen, like we started in the past but still continues in the present. Like any work that was started in the past but still it is continued.
Okay, so you're trying to say that a work that started in the past but it's still continuing, right? For example, somebody was diagnosed with diabetes, right? Like they were diagnosed with diabetes. If they were diagnosed with diabetes, that means that, you know, that thing is lifelong, right? That thing is lifelong. It's not going to go away. So it started in the past and it continues till today. For example, you'd say that, you know, Mr. Smith or Dr. Zara has been a doctor since 2011 or 2016 or 2018, right? So you started as being called a doctor when you got your degree in 2018. Still now you are a doctor, right? So it started in the past and continues till today. Now, what we do is in present perfect, right? Like as it says over here, which started in the past and continues till today. What it means essentially is that you have to think, and all of your letter, almost all your letter is consistent and is consisted of, has your present perfect, your simple perfect, and your past perfect tenses. So we have to understand these three tenses in order for us to write a good and, you know, a letter which is grammatically correct. So in this one, in present perfect tense, we have got three forms. There is present perfect simple, present perfect progressive, present perfect passive, right? Now, what does it mean by simple? There, we're using the term have and has, right? Have and has, meaning we're just simply perfecting it, meaning we're trying to say that, you know, this thing has been done, right? That has been done, right? Like right now, you were doing it till today, right? Like I have treated Mr. Smith at this hospital for 3 years, and it's still happening, but it has happened in the past and now it might have stopped, right? I have treated Mr. Smith at this hospital for 3 years. Meaning it started somewhere in the past, right? And right now we're using the past form in it because we are not sure if Mr. Smith would be treated by you now. You guys understand what I'm trying to say, right? That it is perfected at that particular point. But when I say I have been treating Mr. Smith at this hospital for 3 years, meaning that you've been doing it continuously, right? That you've been doing it continuously. Are you guys following what it means? Right? It's got the present participle in it. Here we're using ed. We're using the third form of verb. When you're using present perfect simple, we're using the third form of verb. When you're using present perfect progressive, we're using the ing form of verb. Why are we doing this? Just to know what is the situation, right? For example, if I say that she has been treated for diabetes, right? She has been treated for diabetes. Now, I'm not saying that she has been having treated or she has been getting treatment, right? Getting, you see, I'm not using the word getting, right? Meaning it's still continuous, right? What I said was that she has been treated for diabetes, meaning now what we think is that, it was happening in the past and it has been going on, but up till today, we're sure that it was going on. We're not sure what would happen next. Are you guys following me? Is this making any sense? This is important to understand the way you use which kind of, past participle. Have treated, have been treating, has been treating, meaning it's still progressing, right? It continues until present, and it might go on in the future when we're using progressive present perfect. Are you guys following me? Dr. Zahra, Dr. Deepa, are you guys following me? Dr.
Yes,
Amber,
Yes, yes.
Dr. Kudrat. Some of your friends aren't there, and I'm very disappointed, but I have to keep going, right? We can't just postpone it. Okay, right? So I have treated Mr. Smith at this point at this hospital for 3 years, right? Meaning you have done this. We're not sure what would happen next, but it happened in the past. It happened till today, right? He has been getting treatment. He has been having vertigo. She has been having this, right? Here we use been, right? B-E-E-N, been, right? Okay. Then there is present perfect passive where you don't use I, right? You don't use I. You use a third person, Mr. Smith, which, by the way, you'd be doing in your letter, right? You'd be doing that in your letter, but we'd come to that next, right? So we're saying Mr. Smith has been treated. See, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Has been treated, right? Has been treated. Has treated, right? Has been treated. But this is perfected and is in the passive form where you're using the person's name first. Then you're saying Mr. Smith has been treated at this hospital. Are you guys following me? Here we use the past participle with been, right? Here we were just saying have been, has been. Here we were saying has been, have been, has been. But here we're using ed, no been. Here we're using ing, and here we're using, again, the ed form, the third form of verb. I know this is very confusing, but when we start doing letters, when we start doing the examples, you learn more. Is everybody clear about what I've told so far, like how these tenses are formed? See, we're not learning English language here. We're learning how to recall what we learned in our primary classes as pre-med students about English, and incorporate that in a way that we'd be able to ace our exam for letter writing. Are you guys following me? Dr. Deepa, Dr. Amber, are you guys following me? Is this
Yes,
making
ma'am.
any— Okay, that is great. See, I need active participation. At any point you guys feel like you're not understanding what's happening, please do ask, right? Without a doubt, please do ask. Okay. Then in your letters you have to use some time markers. I know you guys are working in the hospital, or you have at some point of your life, right? Like you worked in the hospital. When a patient comes in, you take their history, right? You take their history. Then you ask them, for example, a person's having diabetes, right? Like a person's having diabetes. You ask them how long you've had this for, right? How long you've had this for. If the person says that, I've had this for 3 years, okay? If a person says, I've had this for 3 years, or he says that I was diagnosed of this, or I was diagnosed with this in 1996, we have to use time markers, right? And there are 3 time markers for you to know today. The first one is for, the second one is since, and the third one is over. Can anybody tell me what each of one would mean and where we'd use what? Like the person, like you asked me that, you were having diabetes, when were you diagnosed, right? Or how long you'd had this for. For 3 years, which time marker would you use? Since or for? In 1996, which time marker would you use? Since or for? Do you
ma'am.
guys understand what?
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm,
Ma'am,
mhm,
for 3 years since 1996, and over will be used if in a like in a
mhm,
period of time there are changes, like if he's having diabetes mellitus and his condition is deteriorated uh,
mhm,
within this time, so we will use over. But
mhm,
for is used for the period of time, but since is used for the point of time, like specific time, 1996 Saturday, like this.
Okay, so that's a good answer. Anybody else? Thank you, Dr. Zara. Anybody else?
Ma'am, for is used for duration specifically, like for how long, like for days, for number of days, for number of years, and since is used for like particular time, like since 1996, since morning,
So what
or
does it mean? What does it mean? What does it tell you? Okay, you guys did good. You answered in a good way, right? You guys almost know what this means, and I'm sure you do, right? So you're very right, Dr. Deepa, Dr. Zahra, that you know for is used for when you know the starting and ending point of something, right? When you know the starting and ending point of something, that's when you are, talking about for, okay? But since is used for when you just know the starting point of it. Right, Dr. Kudrat? Are you following me? Is this making any sense? Right? Okay. So duration of time, when you know the starting point and ending point, that is when you use for, right? As Dr. Deepa said. Since is used because you see the word S, as the letter S, it means the starting point, right? Like you see, Pakistan was formed in 1994, right? Is that right? No, 1947. I'm sorry, I forgot that. Okay. Or like, for example, somebody was diagnosed with diabetes in 1996. So you have to be careful where you use which time marker. When you use these time markers, you have to be clear of two things. That you have to be clear of two things. Number one, you're using been with it, right? Has been, have been, or has been having, right? These two things. Or, and apart from that, you're going to use the, because it's a specific, right? The, right? For example, you're saying I have been treating the patient for the past, not past, in OET, you don't say past, you say previous. For the previous, for the previous 3 years, or for the previous 6 months, right, guys? Is it clear? Right, what we're trying to say here is that in this, you have to be clear about which form of verb you're using and whether you're supposed to use for or the or since, right? So as it says here, period of time, the duration, right? The duration of time, like you have an ending point and starting point. I have been treating the patient for 3 years, meaning it started some point and 3 years ago and it's been going on till today. So you know the duration, right? The same thing, I have been treating the patient since 2007. Now you see here, we're using have been, right? We're using what here? We're using past perfect because it started somewhere and still going on, right? It started somewhere, it's still going on, right? Treating, have been treated. So what we learned here is when you're going to use the time markers for, since, right? You're going to use past perfect form of sentence structure, and you're going to use the with them, right? Like over here, if you see, I haven't seen the patient for the previous, this is kind of incorrect, for the previous 1 year. We don't say in OET past, we say previous because they're very particular about it. Are you guys following me? Do you understand what's happening here? Do you guys understand what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
Doctor? Okay, great. So
yes.
apart from that, yes, okay, that's good, Dr. Deepa. So apart from that, we have this term over. Now, as Dr. Zahra said, over means, or Dr. Deepa said, over means that you use this time marker if the person, for example, a person, like you're going to write a letter and in your letters, you're going to have 3 or 4 visits, right? So in that, if the person came on the first visit and they were having just flu, okay? Now, when they come on the second visit, when you're trying to describe this previous flu and a change in that, right? So you'd be saying over the past 3 days, her flu has worsened, right? Or her condition worsened over this much time. And here too, you would be using the word the, okay? The, okay? Here we don't use for because we're trying to talk about a change in something over a particular period of time, right? So no has been or have been, no past participle, no past perfect, but just simple sentence structure where you use the word over, but you have to use the in here. In all the times when you're trying to be specific about something, for example, you're saying a person's got pain in the left arm, pain in the left arm. We just don't say she has pain in the left arm. We say she has pain in the left arm, right? In the left arm, because now it's specific. Right now it's very specific where she has got pain. Right, guys? Are you following me? Okay, we're gonna do some of the examples, but before that, let's learn this. Is everybody clear about it? Is everybody clear about it? When you know the starting point of something, it's since, right? When you know the duration of something, you use for. If there's something that's changed, you use over, okay? And with all of them, you have to be specific and use the. Right, guys? Is that clear? If it is, we'll move forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? All right. Any questions so far, Dr. Zara, Dr. Amber, anybody at all?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, that's great, Dr. Pasi. All right. The patient was diagnosed hypothyroidism since 2007. Dr. Fasi, can you do this for me? Can you correct this for me? Because this is incorrect.
The patient was diagnosed uh, hypothyroidism since 2007. The patient had been diagnosed, or we can say like
Had
that.
been, right? Had been diagnosed. Because I told you with since and for, you use had been, right? Had been having, right? Has been having diagnosed, right? Like you use had been, has been, and ing or past perfect. Okay, past perfect simple, right? Either past perfect progressive or past perfect simple. Are you guys following? All right. The patient was diagnosed with hypothyroidism since 2007. If we want to write this one, we could say with hypothyroidism, right? The patient was diagnosed with hypothyroidism in 2007. We can't use since then. You guys following me? You can't use since, because when you say since, you have to use past perfect and you have to use the. Do you guys understand what happened here? Right? We could just simply say the patient was diagnosed with hypothyroidism in 2007. But if you're using since, then you have to say the patient had been diagnosed with hypothyroidism, or the patient was diagnosed, the patient had been diagnosed with hypothyroidism since 2007. Right? Since 2007. Had been diagnosed since 2007. All right? Okay? All right? Is everybody clear about it?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, Dr. Amber, are you there? All right, Dr. Amber, are you there?
Yes,
Dr.
I'm here.
Okay, can you do this next one for me? She has been problems with arthritis in her hands. Now I'm going to say she has been problems with arthritis in her hands for 2007. For 3 years. How would you correct this? How would you correct this?
She has been having problems with arthritis in her hands since 2012.
Okay. All right. She has been having problems with arthritis in her hands for 3 years, right? Has been having problems, right? We are going to use HI, we're going to use ing form of verb, right? Because we're using for, right? Now, one more thing you do here is that she has been having problems with arthritis in her hands for the previous, right? For the previous 3 years, right? Right? Like right now, she's also having it, or you're going to be very specific and use the here, right, guys? Okay, so you have to use been and ing form of verb, depending on if it's still going on. All right, next one. Dr. Deepa, are you there? Just some of them, don't worry.
Yes,
Just some
ma'am.
of them. All right. Can you do this one for me so that we could move forward and do the rest of it?
He is smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day for the past. He had been smoking 2.
Okay, you're saying had been.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So he had been smoking 2 packs of cigarette a day for the past 20 to 30 years. That means he's not doing it right now?
No,
It
he
should be
is
has been.
for the no.
See, he says he is smoking, right? They are using
Hmm.
ing, right? They didn't say he smokes or he smoked. Do you understand this? When I say
Yes.
smoke, it's in the past. When I say smoking, Smoking, it means still going on,
It's
isn't it?
continuous. Yes. Yes.
Continuous. So you're going to say, so do you did say it correctly that he had been smoking 2 packs of cigarette a day for the past, but you know, you're not going to say past here, you would say previous, because OET is particular about it, they'd say previous. Then apart from that, you're going to say he had been smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day for 30 years, for the previous 30 years, right? Okay, but because it's still going on, so you're going to say he has been smoking.
He has been.
Because
Yes.
you know what, because we're not sure about his status of smoking. That depends on the context too, but here we're going to use has been smoking. All right, Dr. Deepa, you did good.
Okay.
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 Just one more from you again, Dr. Deepa. This next one. Over the past week, she remains free from severe pain and has been able to tolerate fluid diet.
She remains free from severe pain and to tolerate a fluid diet.
Okay.
She remained free over the
Yes,
past. She.
Because you see, you're talking about the change in
Yes.
something, right? So it's in the past perfect. She, over the past week, previous week, first of all, she remained free from severe pain and has been able to tolerate a fluid-free diet. Now you see here, when you're using this, right? When you're using this sentence structure, you see there are 2 sentence structures here. This is been, has been, so this is your past perfect, and this is your simple past, isn't it? Over the past week, she remained free, right? So we could have said that over the past week, she has been having remained free, right? Like we could have said has been having, or has been, or had been remaining free. You understand what I'm trying to say? What I'm trying to say here is that you cannot use past perfect, which is your had been, right? You cannot choose your past perfect, which is your had been, has been, right? Or has been having, or ing form of verb with simple perfect. You guys understand what I'm trying to say? Like I cannot say over the past week, she has been remaining free from severe pain and she has been able to tolerate a fluid-free diet. Either I have to remove this has been or the previous has been. You understand? Okay, so if you're combining a sentence, then it's going to be just once when you use has been. First, past perfect. Past perfect is going to go with simple perfect. You understand? Is this clear? Okay, let me give you another example. Right. For example, we're saying she teaches, she taught kindergarten, right? Like let me just write KG, right? She taught kindergarten and she had been sober. She had been sober during that time, right? Like let's just write that. So I cannot say she had been, or she taught, she had been teaching KG and she had been sober during that time. Here I have to use simple perfect, right? This is a very simple structure. I've just used small words, small sentence, just to help you remember that, you know, when you're using past perfect and simple perfect cannot be written together, right? Like they should be written together. You cannot say she had been teaching KG and she had been sober for this time. You have to use, when you're using past perfect, and you can't use past perfect twice in a sentence which is combined, right? Like it's combined with an end. Are you guys following me? These are the rules of grammar, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we write the letters and, you know, like we're thinking we wrote such a good letter. Why did they fail us? Why didn't they, you know, like give us marks that we deserve? Because we don't realize that we're making these mistakes. That is because we don't understand the rules. That's because we don't know the rules, right? So this grammar, I know it seems boring and I know that it feels like it's annoying, but this is actually very important, right, guys? Okay, so do understand these minute things that we're talking about. Okay, all right. All right, great. Okay, let's move forward. Now we're talking about simple past or present perfect. Now there's always confusion about it, right? Like when to use whether, which one, right? The basic rule to remember is if you're referring to a particular time in the past, right? Right? Like, for example, right, you're saying something in the past, right? For example, she taught on Saturday. She taught on Saturday, right? This is too specific. She taught on Saturday, it's been done, right? This thing has been done. She taught on Saturday. When you want to say something like this, you're going to use simple past. You don't have to say that she had been teaching on Saturday, right? She had been teaching on Saturday, because that's too specific, right? The basic rule is that you're going to use past, a simple past, when the thing started that time and ended that time. She started teaching on Saturday and she ended it on Saturday. You guys understand what I'm trying to say? Right? For example, she was diagnosed on 12th March. Okay, diagnosed. Now you cannot keep on diagnosing a person about something on 12th March. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? For example, let's say she was diagnosed diabetic on 12th March, right? She was diagnosed diabetic on 12th March. Now this is simple. It was done in the past. I cannot say she had, because was is simple perfect, right? Simple past, sorry, simple past. I cannot say she had been diagnosed on 12th March with diabetes mellitus, right? Because the bin would say that still in progress. Doesn't that make you confused, right? Like she had been getting diagnosed on 12th March with diabetes mellitus. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? You diagnose one person at a particular time for some disease. Do you understand, guys? Are you following me? Can you hear me? Yes, can you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I think my line's breaking. Can you guys hear me right now? Dr. Deepa, Dr. Amber, Dr. Zara, can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you guys follow what I said earlier? What I'm trying to say is that, you know, for you to understand the writing, you need to know that if something has happened in the past and ended in the past, you use simple past tense, right? Like, for example, you diagnose someone with diabetes at that particular point. You don't just keep on diagnosing them again and again. So you can't say had been getting diagnosed, right? She was diagnosed, that's it, end of story. But if it's still in progress, that's when you use present perfect, right? Because we talked about it, that present perfect means something started in the past and is still going on, isn't it? Simple past means something started in the past, ended in the past, right? So the time markers are very important for you to understand, as we spoke of, okay? So let's see, over here. He sucked his thumb until he was 5, meaning when he was 5 years old, till then he sucked it, now it's over. But if it's still going on, then we're going to say he has been sucking his thumb for 5 years, mean it's still happening. You guys are both sentences are correct, but in this one the person's continued. Though that's a foolish. Are you guys following me? Dr. Amber, Dr. Deepa, Dr. Zara, Dr. Fasi. This is very important because these mistakes you're going to make. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? He first came to see me in 2004, right? You cannot say he has been coming, he first had been coming to see me since 2004, right? Because it just happened once. The first time always happened once, right? That would be an incorrect sentence. But if you say he's still seeing you, you'd be saying he has been seeing me since 2004. Means it's continuous. Right, guys? These are basic rules, and I know most of you already know it, but it's important that we discuss them. Any question?
That's not the advertisement photo.
Yes, Dr. Percy. Any question? Okay. All right. Let's move forward. Okay. All right. Now, this is very, very important. Active and passive form of verb, right? Can anybody tell me what it means by active and passive before we move forward? What's active and passive? Yes.
Ma'am, active is mainly that is focus on me. Like I have prescribed him, I have checked him like this. But passive is we focus on the patient. Like
Very
the
right.
patient was prescribed this medication or like this.
Right. Anybody else? Dr. Amber, Dr. Deepa, Dr. Fasi, about it. Yeah. Okay. All right. See, here's the thing, Dr. Zarin, it's more of you. I prescribed him. He came to my, I believe. I focused on your, right? I have checked him. He came to my clinic. I believe, I think, right? Now, in your letter and in OET, or if you are going to work in UK, USA, or any first world country, first patient care, talking about, right? The patient is their main priority, okay? The patient is their main priority, all right, guys? Meaning you have to focus on the patient. You put that first. All right, now here is the deal. If you are talking about you, patient, disease, advice, okay? Now this is a way to go about it, right?
Sorry to say, ma'am, we
If in a
can't hear
sentence you're
you.
talking about, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me right now?
Yes, now it's
Anybody?
clear, ma'am.
Okay. I'm saying that in a letter, right? In a letter, in a sentence, when you are talking about the, or in a sentence, you have, like a structure where you have to talk about the patient and yourself, right? When you have to talk about the patient and yourself, right? When you have to talk about patient and yourself, put the patient first, right? Like you are saying, I gave him aspirin. You could say, aspirin was given to him. Okay, all right. Or I checked Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith was checked. All right, guys. Mr. Smith was checked. Now, in a sentence, if there is patient and disease, for example, Smith had Parkinson's. Parkinson's was diagnosed in Mr. Smith. Right, so that's how you focus on things. If you have to talk about disease or treatment in a sentence, right? For example, what is it? For example, Loprin, right? Loprin or labetalol was prescribed for hypertension, right? Right, this is the thing, right? Like you see, hypertension is a disease and labetalol is a treatment, right, guys? So labetalol is a treatment and hypertension is a disease. Hypertension. Now we have this in a sentence, right? So instead of putting hypertension first and labetalol later, we are going to say like hypertension was treated with labetalol. This is also a structure, but in order to make it more passive, you put labetalol first. Labetalol was used for hypertension, right? So focusing on the treatment when we have a disease, focusing on advice when we have a treatment, putting that first, putting the patient's care first would make the sentence more passive. You don't say I in your letters unless you are starting it or about to end it, right? Like you'd be saying, I'm writing, I am writing, right? Like as we did our structure the other day, I am writing to refer. That is your active form of a verb, and that's how you'd be writing and starting your letters. Do you guys understand? Are you following? Okay, that would help us. That would help us focus on the patient, focus on his treatment, focus on his problems, right? Like most of you guys, right? He came to my clinic. We don't care if he came to your clinic. Obviously, it's your clinic that he comes to because you are their GP. It wastes your time, it wastes your work time, right? You could just say that he presented with this and this and this, whatever he had, right, guys? See, you need to take flucloxacillin capsules. Flucloxacillin capsules need to be taken, right? That you focus on them. You don't even focus on you or I, you focus on the treatment. Are you guys following? Is this making any sense? Everybody following me? Can you hear me still?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any questions? Because I'm no. No questions? Move forward. Okay, so let me just make you solve some of them and let's see if you guys understood it. Okay, Dr. Zara, can you do this for me? She was performed a colostomy accompanied with the partial ball resection. Yes, Dr. Zara.
Ma'am, a colostomy was performed with a partial ball resection. Hello?
Okay, on her. Don't forget that. Can you hear me, Dr. Zara? Can you guys hear me?